Okay, so we started recording, and let me share my screen. Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
dive.
we can see it.
Okay, great. So let's dive right in for today. So today is week 11, so we're almost there. We're almost there. It remains just 2 more weeks, so we're almost there. Well, let's just say it remains 1 more week because the last week is just us talking. So uh, today we are discussing prototyping and user testing. Okay, so there are two different things, but at the same time, they sort of require each other to survive. Okay, so that's why we are touching on both of them together. Okay, that way you can have a better understanding of what it is. So, what is prototyping now? Prototyping majorly is like one of the most important steps in the design thinking process. Okay, I think we already have a stage called prototyping on its own. Okay, so and it's, I would say, sort of confusing for some people, sort of confusing for some designers, and you know because you can actually prototype at any stage, okay, of your design process, okay, which is why it's not. Right. Let me Okay. 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 So, which is why it's not always something that you do at the end. Okay. Some people prefer to do it at the end. Fine. Some people do it at intervals or at different stages. But as we go further, you understand. When you should prototype or in what stages you will need to perform some types of prototypes. Okay. So, what exactly are prototypes now? The most basic definition of prototype is that a prototype is a simulation, okay? Is a simulation or a sample version of your final product, okay? So it's more or less what you use for testing prior to launch. So it's what you put out and you will say, okay, let's test this, let's use this, as what people would look at as a sample, as a simulation. So people can look at it and say, okay, this is more or less like a polished version of what you intend to release. It's not the final thing. It's just a simulation of it. So the goal of a prototype is to test products, is to test ideas, before you end up sinking in so much money, so much effort, so much time and resources, into the final product. So it's more or less you validating that, okay, what you are doing is legit, or validating that you should go forward, with that, instead of, when you now launch the final product and it's not something you can actually use. Okay. So prototypes are majorly essential in solving usability issues before launch. And so when you show that prototype, the user tests it, the user looks at it, and then that way the user can give you feedback and tell you, oh, this is not working out well. So you can fix those usability issues, before you actually launch the product. Okay. So a prototype is used to understand, okay, and see how a product or an application works, okay, what it does and how you should interact with it, okay. There are simulations of how a finished product will work. I think we've said it over and over again, but it just shows you how everything would work, before the actual product is more or less launched. So why do we prototype, okay? The first reason why we prototype is to limit the expenses of development. Okay, so you've designed that app, you've done all of those things, and then you want to prototype it. You want the user to have a simulation of how it will work. Okay, it's very difficult to get a developer to code it, or maybe an app developer or a website developer to code that product. Okay, it's always very difficult to get them, or I won't say it's very difficult to get them, but they would rather produce something that it will be a final version, okay, than create a prototype of of that. And it takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of effort, because after you've designed it, developer will now have to go through a long process of coding that. So prototypes sort of allow you to create this, hybrid applications, where the user would be able to see it and interact with it. It can click on buttons can perform actions and the likes. That way it simulates, what it would be like when it has been developed. Okay. The second reason why we prototype is because it helps us test the design concepts. Okay. So we get to find out things. Okay, are we using the standard UI principle? Okay, do the users find it difficult to use, and all of that? That's under usability of the product. Okay, it also helps us test the usability because when users can view it, can interact with it, they can tell you things. They can say, "Oh, it's difficult clicking this," or "I didn't know this was here." You were the one that had to tell me this was here before I could see it. So prototypes help you find out these things before you sink in money, into making the application go live. Okay. So let's talk about prototyping methodologies or methods. Okay. So these are the different types of prototypes. There are a wide variety of ways to prototype. Okay. There are a lot, but the major ones are paper prototype, then we have digital prototype, and then we have HTML or code prototype. Okay, so those are the three major ones. Okay, the third being the code prototype or HTML prototype is one that maybe if you're a designer and you have a flair for coding or you can code, why not? You can go ahead and do that. So we'll discuss these three, the advantages and their disadvantages. Okay. So the first one is paper prototype. So from the image here, you can see, so someone just uses paper, markers, pencils, gum, and maybe some sellotapes, and he formed the frame of a phone, and then, so think of it as those paper sketches now forming the paper prototype. Okay, so this is one of the first ones people use. Okay, uh, paper practice has been before internet, and the likes, so it's a very straightforward process, very, very straightforward process. It is simple. You can just draw on paper and then you can control different things. You can use different types of papers. You can cut out cardboards. You can form shapes and other things to simulate buttons, simulate interactions and all those things. Okay. It's very, very inexpensive. So the advantage is that it is fast. Okay, you can make a quick paper prototype in 5 minutes. Okay, everyone knows how to do paper crafts. We learned all this while we were, we were young, so it is a straightforward process. It's very, very fast. Okay, it's inexpensive. Okay, paper is everywhere. Pencils are everywhere, markers are everywhere. It's a straightforward thing. Okay, it also helps in team building. Okay, so mm, like I said in the earlier weeks, ideally as a UI UX designer, you're working with a team. Okay, so paper prototype sort of helps in that form of way. Creating this exercise helps to form cohesion between teams. Okay, which is also an advantage of paper prototype because everyone can actually come together and get creative about how things should be. And then the fourth advantage is documentation. Okay, so unlike digital prototypes, okay, like okay, so like let me just mute. Okay, okay, sorry about that. So unlike digital prototypes like HTML or code prototypes, you can actually document your paper prototypes. Okay, you would always have them, and you can always fall back to them as forms of inspiration and the likes. Okay, so what are some of the disadvantages? So number one, it is unrealistic. Okay, so no matter how skilled your art is or your craftsmanship is, okay, you know paper prototypes are still poor substitutes for digital systems, okay, because everything you are designing is on a digital system, okay. People use their phones, people use their laptops, people use their iPads and the likes. So irrespective of how beautiful you might have cut your shapes, cut the cardboards and the likes, it will still remain unrealistic. okay, because the person will not get the same feeling, okay. So which brings us to the next disadvantage, which is false positives. Okay, sometimes paper prototypes don't actually test what you have in mind. Okay, people might just give you feedback on that actual prototype. Okay, so they might tell you things like the boxes are not uniform, or the shape, the paper was not cut cleanly, or something like that. Because people are much more carried away about what the paper is doing, okay, or what the structure of the paper is like, than what actions they are to perform, okay. Then we have the fourth disadvantage, meaning there's no gut reactions, okay. So paper prototypes more or less relies on the user's imagination, okay. So the gut reaction is very, very crucial in the success of your UX, okay. And the gut reaction can only be felt more or less on the physical products or the actual products themselves, you know, because that is where the pain point, actually is at, okay. So let's go to the next methodology, which is digital prototyping. Okay. So digital prototypes are like the most common form of prototyping now. Okay, and they are realistic enough, and they are accurate enough, to test most interface elements. Okay, so they are also much more easier to produce than HTML prototypes. So digital prototypes are like that sweet spot, that middle ground where you can actually design and create those prototypes within for those designs, in a way that is very inexpensive and it's not too time consuming as I would say. I won't say it's too time consuming. There's some time and effort built into it as well, but it's not as much as what you would do with paper, because now you're just transitioning from what you've designed to prototyping. Okay, so the advantage is gives you realistic interactions. Okay, so you're able to test how users interact with an environment, comparable to the final product, because you've already designed it. Okay, and it looks very, very realistic to what would be the final product. So you can actually see those realistic interactions with your prototype. So the second advantage is flexibility. Okay, so flexibility is more or less like you are able to test quickly, or you are able to test very early enough. So you can start with low fidelity prototypes, and then you can progress to more advanced prototypes within your design. So flexibility in the sense that you can perform some kind of you know animation, some kind of actions, within the prototypes that users would be able to you know interact with, to more or less simulate what the actual thing would be like. So it's much more flexible, so because it's close to real life. Okay. Then the third advantage is speed. So paper prototypes seem to have an edge here, but if you are going with a computerized interface, okay, or digital prototypes, you know, digital prototypes are more or less much faster to implement, okay. So, but the speed varies based on more or less things you would want to do, within that prototype. So, if you are maybe trying to prototype a drag and drop interaction, for example, it will be faster in code than in digital prototype, okay? Because now you do a lot of things, you create so many artboards and the likes. Don't worry, we'll see some of this when we jump into Figma. So the disadvantage is the learning curve, okay? So there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of ways to go around digital prototypes. So, there's a steep learning curve, okay, to I would say this has been busted. About 50% of it has been busted because now we have tools like XD and Figma that make it easier for you. So the learning curve is sort of lower. Okay, let's say a few years back it was high. Because you would require maybe a standalone software like maybe After Effects or Framer and the likes. Those are much more complex to use. So Another disadvantage is transitioning to code. So as designers, sometimes we can go crazy. Okay, so we might create some wonderful interaction. Balls bouncing here, animations here, and the likes here. But we forget about the actual developers. We forget about who code this design. Okay, and some of these things are not realistic enough to be brought into code. Okay, so which is another disadvantage of digital prototypes, because we can go haywire and create something wonderful, and then transitioning it to code or creating that in a real world environment is not possible. Okay. So we have the last methodology, which is HTML code or prototyping. Okay. So this is only recommended for designers who are confident in their coding abilities. Okay. You know, Other people might pick it up. Okay. Some organizations would actually want you to design and then tell you hand over to the developers, and that we want the developers to do actual code prototype. Okay, because some of them will want some benefits from it. Okay, which we'll talk about in the advantages now, which is it gives you more or less a technical foundation for the final product. Okay, once you've coded this prototype, more or less the base of your code, or the skeletal part of your code is there. The foundation is there. So the changes you will be making will be very, very minimal, because maybe it may just be the buttons are too small, or it may just be that an element is placed in the wrong spot. Okay, so this is one advantage when you do code prototype. So the ability to refactor some things is very, very easy. Okay. The second one is platform agnostic. Okay, so platform agnostic is something that is very nice for code prototype, because you can test your prototype on virtually any operating system or device. Okay, and users will need to run some sort of software. Okay, so which is an advantage if you look at maybe things like websites. Okay, you can just do a prototype of your website in code and publish a URL, www.thename.com or something, and then you tell users to check it out. So users don't need special software for that. They already have their browsers, they already have their internet connection. All they will just do is look at it and give you feedback. Okay, so which is an advantage. Then there's low cost. Okay, low cost is the double-edged sword here, but low cost for code prototypes, lets you skip steps in the process. Okay, so you don't need to maybe buy prototyping software. Coding is actually cheap. It's the knowledge that is more or less expensive. Okay, because a lot of coding, you know, tools, okay, programming languages and the likes are available for free, okay, which is where the cost is very low there, and then, but in the sense that, oh, okay, let me mute. No, sorry. Okay. So I would say it's more or less a double-edged sword. It's low when maybe you don't need to buy uh, prototyping software, okay? Even up to date, we still have some very, very powerful prototyping softwares that are extremely expensive. Okay. But now I would say Figma, XD, maybe Sketch are doing really well in that department or in that field, that the cost barrier is not too much again. So you can actually see prototypes. Okay, so what's the disadvantage of code prototype now? So it's more or less dependent on your designer skill level. Okay, so if you are not too good at coding, okay, you can't implement this. Whereas, like I said, some organizations already have guys who all they do is take your design and translate it into code prototypes. Okay. Then the other disadvantage is that it inhibits creativity. Now, think of this as maybe tunnel vision, okay? More or less, when you start designing, okay, or when you jump into your prototyping code, okay, you can't really do two things at the same time. It's possible, but when you start designing for, or you start prototyping for, code as for the web, you are more or less thinking in the line of the web, okay, and you are not, necessarily taking into account some other things, okay, like, you know, uh, how will I, okay, let me look for a different way, you're not really looking at the UX now, okay? Because at the first stage, you are more or less the designer, you are the UI UX designer here. But having the ability to also do code prototypes, okay, can limit your creativity, okay, to some extent, because now you jump straight into the code prototype, forgetting every other thing, okay. You would need to have maybe done the UX, the design thinking process as a whole, and then understood all of those things before you now say, okay, let me take this and go into the code prototype. Okay. So to a large extent, it might inhibit your creativity, okay? And at the same time, it's also sort of a bonus, okay, because to a large extent, you understand some of the web standards and things that are possible and things that, are not too possible, but in most cases, designers might be lazy and we just go the easy route, okay, which is where, you tend to have tunnel vision and the likes. So, digital prototyping tools are there are a lot. This is not even all. We have Figma, we have Principle, we have Framer, we have XD, we have Sketch. There are lots. There's Just in Mind. There are a lot of them. There are so many. There's Protopy, you know. But for this lesson today, we'll use Figma. Okay, XD is much more better in prototyping. XD has a lot of powerful features prototyping wise. Okay, but yeah, Figma, we're using Figma for this. Figma is also improving their features as well. So we'll jump into Figma soon, but we'll just quickly talk on user testing, okay, before we go into Figma. So now we said, you are creating these prototypes for a reason. You want users to be able to look at it. You want users to be able to test it, okay, and say, oh, this is what is wrong, or this is what I feel I enjoyed the most, okay, which is where user testing comes in. User testing is also called usability testing, okay, it's still the same thing, okay, and it is a practice of testing. Okay, let me use the definition from IDF, okay. IDF defined usability testing as the practice of testing how easy a design is to use on a group of representative users, okay. It usually involves, you know, observing users as they attempt to complete tasks and can be done for different types of designs, okay, from user interfaces to physical products. It is often conducted repeatedly from early development until a product release. Okay, so just like prototype now, okay, user testing, can be done at every stage, okay. That's why I said the design thinking process loops and repeats itself. Okay. So things are intertwined. So at any point in time that you feel, oh, we need to test this, we need to find out if this is solid enough, you would take out maybe a paper prototype and you test with someone. Okay. So think of the prototype and the test as two things that need each other to survive, sort of. Okay. So usability testing is a technique used in user-centered interaction design, okay, to evaluate, more or less a product by testing it on users, okay. So you are giving users to say, okay, let me look at this, tell me what you think about it. Okay, so what are the benefits of usability testing? Okay, so one is that you learn if participants are able to complete specified tasks successfully. Okay, so let's say you want people to be able to upload pictures, on your application. Okay, you testing that process will help you know, okay, if they were able to do it without the aid of guides, or if they were able to figure it out on their own. Okay, so you can also identify how long it takes to complete task. Okay, you can find out how satisfied participants are with your website or your other products. Okay, so this is why you test. Okay, you can also identify changes required to improve user performance and satisfaction. So this will be where you'll be doing, I think, a qualitative test where they will come back and tell you things like, oh, I wasn't feeling this, the color was off, or it was difficult to do some things. And lastly, it's you can analyze the performance to see if it meets your usability objectives. Okay, so remember, we said design is a problem-solving discipline. Okay, so we have done the empathy stage, we have understood the problems. So we are testing now to find out if we have met those problems. So we've been able to solve those problems. Okay, which is why you test. You always need to test before you go live. It's very important. So in summary, usability testing evaluates ease of use. Okay, that's just it. Because your product should be easy to use. That's the whole point of creating these products. Okay, it should be easy to use. People should be able to pick it up, understand it, use it, and find joy, from those products. Okay, so what are the types of usability testing quickly? So once we talk on the types, then we'll jump into Figma. So we have qualitative. Now, qualitative testing focuses on collecting insights or findings, about how people use, your product or your service. Okay, usability, qualitative usability testing, is best for discovering problems in the user experience. Okay, so it helps you to more or less discover things that you yourself did not think was maybe a problem. Okay, so qualitative is more or less you giving the user the product and then the user coming back to you and telling you things like, oh, you some things were off. Okay, so this is mostly reliant on the user's perception, okay, or what the user felt from that product. you know so we have a quantitative usability testing. Okay, so this focuses more on collecting maybe metrics that describe the user's experience. Okay, so most of the metrics people tend to take will be task success and maybe time on the task. Okay, so it's more or less you finding out how long did it take this user to upload the picture. Okay, how long did it take for the user to successfully post. Okay, how long did it take for the user to understand that, okay, this is what this does. Okay, so quantitative is more or less giving you benchmarks. Okay, that you setting benchmarks that you want to accomplish, and then looking for that average time it took people to do those things. Okay, so the level of completed successes, how easy was it for them to sign up? How long did it take to sign up? Okay, how long did it take for them to maybe update their profile picture? Those things are quantitative, you know, testing. Okay, so where you have feedback or figures, stating that, oh, this was how long it took on average to more or less complete those tasks. So the third type is in-person testing. Okay, this is where the the tester, okay, the person who will be testing it, and the moderator would be together, and then you would guide the user on how to test or what to test for. Okay, so this will be when you have particular things you want the user to give you feedback on. Okay, so you are sure or you are certain of particular things already succeeding in your design, and then you want the user to test for particular things. Okay, then we have remote moderated. So remote moderated is more or less like an in-person testing, but where the person who is testing is far away from the person who is moderating. Okay, and but the person who is moderating is also watching and is giving instructions. Okay, so remote moderated testing is more or less things you would do with maybe Skype, or things you would do with maybe Zoom or GoToMeeting, where you would share your screen, or you give the user access to the digital prototype, and then the user will share his or her screen, and then you guide the user on what to do. Then the last type is remote unmoderated. Okay, so this is where you would just upload whatever you need to upload, and then the user would test without being interrupted, without being told anything. And this is a very, very nice way of testing, because users are much more comfortable, because this helps you depict more or less the real life scenario of how a user will use your product. Okay, because you are not watching the user doesn't know it's being watched. The user is just doing things like he or she would normally do. Okay, and the user will be much more comfortable. So that way you can get a lot of info, through this type of testing. So you would use tools, you use maybe websites or services that allow you to do, remote unmoderated, testing. So, and some of those tools are, we have Optimizely. So Optimizely is more or less like the king of usability testing. It's a paid version. So these are things you may not really, really, really use, okay? Uh, because most of them require funds, a lot of money, and mm, most organizations will be the ones to pay for it. For smaller products, you can always go around and use, do testing with friends, do testing with, maybe just sharing your Figma link and the likes. Okay, those ones are pretty much straightforward. But these resources here are more or less for, heavy duty testing. So people like Netflix now, people like Apple, people like Facebook, where they want to try out a specific version of, a product. Okay, they would need thousands of people from diverse parts of the world to test. Okay, this is where these tools come in. So we have GT Metrics. GT Metrics is actually free. It helps you test benchmarks for your website. Okay. So things like load speed, how long did it take to load? Okay. Did you optimize your images and all of those things? Okay. Then we have usertesting.com. So user testing, oh, I didn't spell it well. It's my life. Okay, so usertesting.com, more or less, helps you to, it's more or less like Optimizely, but now it's more or less real people. Okay, Optimizely gives you real people as well. But user testing is touted as the one that gives you real user reviews. So users can review your products from maybe their website, from their house, the comfort of their house, and then they give you heat maps, they give you eye tracking, and sometimes users tend to, you can even talk with those people that use your product, and then they can give you their own feedback, over a Zoom or a Skype call. So we have Crazy Egg. Crazy Egg more or less gives you heat maps and eye tracking analysis. So you can upload your link to your website, and then people would view it, and then they would tell you what were the parts people focused on the most, what parts got the most traction and the likes. So that way you can know, okay, if you had to adjust some certain things on your website. Okay, so let's dive in and let's quickly prototype something. Okay, so we'll prototype something and then we'll end for today. Okay, so let me open up Figma. Okay. Okay. So okay, let me just use the other draft we did. Let me just create a separate page. Okay. So remember, we said prototyping is more or less you simulating real world, use. Okay. So let's let's create something like maybe a mobile picture viewer or something. Okay, so I can always pick my text frame, and then say, okay, let me use somebody's name in the class. Welcome, Sean. Okay, uh, let me make this maybe 22 or something. And we're not going into details here. We're just normal prototype. Okay, so we maybe use Lorem, generate 20 words, make it 12, and then okay. Yeah, I think we have one too many words. Okay. Yeah. So now let's say we have picture frames. Okay. And let's just use the rectangle, and then maybe let's create the first picture frame, and then maybe we have a smaller picture frame here, just something smaller. Let me bring it in. Okay. So let me just use Unsplash and let me bring in maybe 2 images or something. And mm, let's just do architecture. Okay. Okay. Let's say this is the first image, and then let's say this is the second. No, I think I even like this one for the first. Don't mind me. One decisive here. Okay. So, uh, and then we have another screen, and okay. So let me just do a full width. Okay, and let me put this image here. Okay. So let me just use the pen tool to create something quick. Make this 5, and then let me just enter it. Okay, so now let's do a quick prototype here now. So now we want to prototype this in a way that the user sees this and then the user clicks, okay? Because now definitely the user might want to click this and see the picture, you know. Once prototype is in a way that the user clicks this and it takes the user here, and then the user can always click this and come back here. Okay. So the only parts we did not touch on Figma was the prototype tab. Okay. When you maybe are ready to become a unicorn, okay, you can come into the code tab. But this is the prototype tab. Okay. And when we're in here now, you can see how Figma sort of selects these elements and creates this blue border with more or less a circle, a circle next to it. Okay. So now we want to prototype this first, meaning this is where the prototype will start from. Okay, so we click on this and then we drag. Oh, sorry. So we click and then we drag. So you see this arrow link coming up now. So we can drag it wherever we want it to be. So if we have a third or a fourth artboard, we can take it to that. But for now, we want to put it here. Okay. So this now gives you, options now, like interaction options now. So the first interaction is, when we tap it, it should do something. Okay. So it's the tap we want. Okay. So the other things you can do on drag, you can do while hovering. So hovering can be maybe when you want to create an interaction for uh, maybe a button simulation on your website, when you hover on the button and then, it changes color. So we're doing a tap and then this will simulate which screen we're going to, which is why I said, in the first class when we had talked on introduction to Figma, the first Figma class, I said it's always nice to name your artboards, okay? So that way you don't have problems because sometimes you may have 50, 60, maybe 100 artboards, and because you didn't name them well, it's very difficult to figure out which one it is because you may not be able to just start clicking and dragging this arrow to that board because that board might be very far away. Okay, so always try to rename you know, your layer as well. Okay, so now there are different types of animations. Okay, there's the dissolve, there's smart animate, there's instant. Instant has no animation at all. Okay, you can move in left, you can move in, you can slide in, slide out, you can push. So maybe we'll do a smart animate. Okay, and then you can you know see a live preview of what it might look like here. Okay, then you can do ease in, ease out. I tend to do ease in out, and then you can choose the duration. Okay, so now this is 300 milliseconds. Okay, so I can choose 1 second. Okay, let me do it. Okay, let me do it. Okay, and then we've created that first interaction. Okay, so let's play it and let's see. So this more or less gives you the ability to create this kind of nice interactions, okay, that people can see. So if you click outside the frame, okay, Figma can tell you what items have interactions around them. Okay, so if I click outside, you see how it highlights that box, meaning that's something I can interact with. So now if I click this, you see the animation. Okay, yeah, I didn't do my okay. Click this, you see how it dissolves into it. Okay, so it's more or less creating this sort of interactions, okay, that make it easier for users to make it easy for you to simulate what the actual product would be like. Let me bring this down more. Okay, so now I can pick this and say, okay, and when I click, you bring me back to this page. Okay, so I can say on tap, okay, it should navigate to that page, and then do the same thing. Okay, so it retains those settings. So I always prefer easing out, so it just figures out which one to choose. And then if I play, okay, so if I play now, I click, it takes me here. I click, it takes me back. Okay, that's a simple simulation of you know prototypes. Okay, so there are a lot you can do. Okay, there are a lot you can do. Let's see if we can even do one more. Okay, let's see if we can do one more. Why not? Okay, so let's try and simulate maybe okay, let's try and simulate maybe an onboarding flow. Okay, so we might more or less uh, let's say we have a box here. Let me just borrow some of the text. Okay, let me just borrow some of the text. Oh, look at me. Okay, let me just do something. Okay, and okay, okay. So let's duplicate two more times. Okay, and then we want to do it such a way that the user, more or less slides and it takes him to, the next screen. So maybe we'll just paint these different colors, so you know we can tell the difference between these different screens. Okay, so let me go with the green here. Okay, so as usual, you come to the prototype tab. Okay, and then you can pick the frame. Okay, and then move this here. So you can do on drag. Okay, so on drag, it should take me to the next the next frame. Okay, and then I can do ease in, ease out. Okay, and a smart animate, or I can even do a move out. Okay, okay. So I come to the next, and then I can repeat the same. Okay, so I can choose the direction I want to move out from. But because I'm going left, okay, why not do that? Okay, and then I can do this for this as well. So I can return, okay, and then I can pick the right position. Okay, I can return as well for this. Okay, okay. Oh, Figma doesn't offer multiple for that. So it's Exit that does that. Okay, yeah. Okay. So now uh, another thing to note is when you're in the prototype tab, okay, you see this blue icon here, okay, with a play next to it, okay. So that shows you where the interaction will start from, okay. So you can always choose which screen will do that, okay. So now I'm moving it here, okay, so that we can start the prototype from there. So if I come in now and I click play, to prototype, okay, it should start from there and see. Uh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. Figma. Okay. I didn't link that. Sorry. And okay. Okay. So let's try that again. Uh, let's try the prototype again. Okay. Okay, so this is on tap, sorry, and this is still on tap. So on drag. Okay, so I swipe. Okay, so that's a simple interaction. Okay, so you can do a lot. There are much more advanced things you can do with prototyping. But it's more or less straightforward and involves you playing around with it. So when you are more or less maybe done with that product, okay, and you want someone to test, okay, you can always hit your share, okay, and there are two. Okay, let me explain Figma sharing now because Figma sharing is somehow complex. Okay, somehow. So if I'm inside the document, okay, in Figma, and I hit share, and I say can view, okay, it means the person can only view the document, but the person cannot edit the document, okay. So if I say anyone with the link can edit, it means anyone I give, okay, the link can actually sign in with his Figma ID and edit, that particular document, okay, which is Figma's power, the power of collaboration, okay. Whereas if I use can view, the person can only view it. The person cannot edit the document. But when I hit play, okay, now that's two different things that you should note now. When I hit play, okay, on the play screen, okay, on the play screen, uh, this you can actually share the prototype. You see, this changes to share prototype. Okay, this is share the document. Okay, and this is share prototype. When you share the prototype, this is where it takes the user to. This is the only place the person comes to, so the person can actually interact with your product. Okay, so this is how you more or less share the prototype. So I can now click share prototype, and then just copy the link from here and share with whoever I want to test it out and give me feedback on. Okay, so that's more or less how you would share your prototype, and you can now say, okay, help me test. So users can more or less look at it and give you feedback and tell you things like, oh, the button is maybe too big or the button is too small, things of that nature. Okay, so that's very important to note because sometimes people say they share and then it's the actual documents they shared are not the prototype. Okay, because sometimes it's just the prototype the user needs. The user doesn't need to be confused. The user just wants to come in and test it. Okay, so that's also something you need to note. There are much more advanced things you can do with Figma prototyping. Okay, it's improving. It's not as great as XD, but it's improving. It's still doing well. Okay, so we've come to the end. You only have one assignment. Okay, and it's not really a compulsory assignment. Okay, so some people just prefer to design. For a long time, I was just designing. I wasn't prototyping. Okay, so using skills you've learned. You know, create an interactive prototype of your product and share for others to see. Okay, so you can create a small prototype and share on the group. Just you can record your screen and share to the group and let's see. Okay, you can also employ the guerrilla research method. We talked about this. I think was it second or third week? Okay, for user testing. Since it is cheap. Okay, because now you don't have money to pay usertesting.com or optimizely or these big sites. Okay, you don't even need to. Okay, you just need to share your prototype. People will test and they give you feedback. Okay, you can use things like the guerrilla research. You can share with friends. You can share with family members and the likes. Okay, so it's a simple and cheap way of testing. Okay, until maybe when you have access to things like Optimizely and user testing. Okay, I think I've only even used user testing twice. Okay, so it's not, and that was with previous organizations. So it's not even something a lot of people use. Okay, it's important, yes, but that will depend on the organization or how much funds has been allocated for that project. Okay, so I think that does it for today's class. Okay, so guys, we're done for today. If anyone has any question, you can always ask. So okay, Rose said she will wait for the lecture video. Okay, so guys, do we have any questions for today? It's pretty much straightforward for user testing and the likes. Prototyping, you can always find a lot of good YouTube videos, that cover prototyping. There are a lot of new things that come out on prototyping almost every week. So there's always a lot you can find. So it's always try not to confuse the user. Okay, always make things simple. So don't create one new interaction that the user will never use or will never understand. That kind of thing. Okay. So guys, do you have any questions?
Thank you for today.
Okay, you guys are welcome. The video will be uploaded on YouTube and then I'll post in the Google Classroom. Okay, I think Raphael is new. Raphael, welcome. Well, we have gone far. Raphael, we have gone far. So I'll send you the link to the Google Classroom as the password you will use to get in, and you would see everything from week 1 all the way down to today, and you can just go at your own pace. Don't rush yourself. Don't try and create one impossible milestone. Just take things easy. Slow and steady. Okay, because me too, when I started, I was like, 1 year, I must kill this thing. Yeah, even up to now, I'm still learning. You get, so just take things, slow and steady. You'll get there. Okay, so the video
Okay.
will be live on YouTube by this night. So on Saturday we would have the standards, so the usability standards, color standards. So I'll be giving a lot of resources on Saturday. So it will be a lot of resources. It may just be a resource class throughout. So so things that will help your design move faster and look familiar for users. Okay, so take care, guys. So I'll see you
Thank you.
Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
Okay.